Okay, so a very warm welcome to this final session of phase 3 in our inspiration webinar series, which is our 23rd session. So this is about networking. This is about office hours. This is about you asking any questions you have before, our deadlines of 30th of January for your phase 3 proposal submissions. And today, obviously, we have as our group mentors who will be helping you with your Q&A or answer any questions you might have about phase 3, about challenge, about the smart protein sector, and anything else within the areas that you're kind of currently working on. We have Varun Deshpande, who's the managing director of JFI India and JFI Asia, as you all know. And from our team, we have myself, Shardul, Nicole, Akshay, and Devika as well. So we'll be hopping in different rooms and also taking part in the networking session, and just take any questions you might have within that group, during that slot. A big thank you to all our title sponsors, title sponsor, Capri Global, key sponsors, NICE and Alchem Foundation, organizing partner CIACO, and our smart protein ecosystem partners and supporting partners on the India Smart Protein Challenge as well, who are helping a lot of you post-challenge with, and also through the demo day, and also with a lot of support in terms of infrastructure, mentoring. Throughout the mentoring sessions, we've had a lot of people from these organizations and from within our smart protein ecosystem come and share their knowledge. So this is the agenda for today. I'll give you a few quick updates, and then we'll have a short Q&A session with Varun. Then we'll break out for 2 networking cycles for 20 minutes each in a group of about 8-10 people, so that we can have more time to get to know each other from last time's feedback. And we'll go through all the rooms, and after that, towards the end, we'll kind of join back around 8:05, 8:10 for a quick 10-minute insight sharing, feedback sharing, kind of a last leg of the session, and we'll also take a group photograph. So make sure you stick till the end, and you can, my recommendation is you switch on your cameras and also take a look at the resources shared with you earlier. So you should go through the final list of selected candidates and teams. Not just before the session, hopefully many of you have gone through it, but after the session as well, you can connect with people from different backgrounds and different universities. I know a lot of you will find synergy in kind of interacting with other team members from different technology areas, from different universities, understanding what their skill sets and expertise are, and then perhaps finding some help and cohort mentoring within those groups that you form as well. After that, I'll also recommend you to go through the Smart Protein Solutions wall. It's almost complete and will be publishing on our website in the coming weeks. And we'll be sharing the link of the social media post that we would like you to also amplify in your networks soon, so that you can share it on LinkedIn, Instagram, etc. And this is the kind of Smart Protein Solution wall we have in our gallery view. You can put in filters, you can put in sort, and you can figure out what different people are working on, and again connect with the primary team members of those teams if you prefer this route, right? And at the same time, all the resources have been shared on your email for Smart Protein Digital App on phase 1. You just have to log in your Mercer account and then essentially access all of those resources from phase 1. All the recordings are now available on our YouTube handle. So if you go to our JFI India YouTube page and you kind of go through any of these playlists, if you just take a look at the Inspiration Webinar Series playlist, you'll see all the webinars right from start on different topics that we've conducted till now. And you can take a look at phase 2 webinars, phase 3 webinars that you have missed, and make sure that before you submit your proposal on 30th, you've kind of incorporated all the small insights, all the tips, all suggestions, recommendations shared by mentors, Nicole, Akshay, me, Devika, throughout these sessions, and also incorporate them in your proposal. So hopefully a lot of you have already attended those. So I'll let you take a look at that after the session if you haven't. And then make sure that you've gone through, again, track 1, track 2 problem statements, taken a look at resources which are available with those problem statements, gone through our social media handles for finding resources, our website. There are a lot of important things which perhaps were not shared with you, which are perhaps deeper 3011 material, more deeper resources that you might like to explore that you can find on our website as well. And you can also check out the GFI Global YouTube channel, which has a lot of fantastic sessions recently added in the past 2-3 months that can help your proposal as well. At the same time, make sure that you've joined the Slack or networking group if you still haven't, and kind of just get in touch with each other, sign up for the talent community if you're looking for opportunities in this space. And finally, take a look at the proposal submission guidelines that were also shared with you. So let me quickly run you through that. A key point in terms of submitting it. So you know that track one teams are submitting a 15-page proposal and track two teams are submitting a 25-page proposal because it involves aspects of business plan as well, right? And then for submission, here are the guidelines. You log in, whatever track you belong to, you log in to that link, and something like this will open up for you, right? And once you log in with your registered email ID, currently you can see this. And it says 1 day here, right? At the corner, ends in 1 day. And that's because our webinar series will get over today. We'll kind of create an aggregate attendance list and hopefully aggregate attendance of your team as a composition of all members is above average. And this button will enable for you, and then you'll be able to submit your phase 3 proposals starting 24th of January. We are accepting proposals as you're submitting it, but I'll recommend you to make sure that everything's in line with the evaluation criteria, and you take a look at other kind of suggestions, tips, and format guidelines given in the phase 3 proposal submission document. All of this is available in your email. I just wanted to make sure that I'm taking you through it again. So if there are any questions, we can clarify those in today's session. Yeah. Great. So with that, I'll actually invite Varun to just share his thoughts with our phase 3 cohort. We have participants from both track 1 and track 2 today.
Yeah, thank you so much, Shardul, and congratulations to you and Nicole, Devika, and the entire team for this entire series.
I can't hear you, Varun, for some reason.
Sorry,
can everybody hear Varun?
I can hear him.
I can hear you.
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay, awesome. Thank you so much, Shardul. We'll figure it out. But yeah, I was just saying congratulations to the GFI India team and to everyone here. I have to say, I mean, last year, the Smart Protein Innovation Challenge made complete sense to run because of the pandemic, because there was so much going on, and a lot of young people were telling us that they were desperate to even go back to university and take their exams, right? Because it was kind of depressing sitting at home. Meanwhile, we have this amazing opportunity, this fast growing, or at least very promising industry where people can come in and apply their talents and actually marry their values with their credentials and their financial future, etc. So we didn't expect it to take off the way that it did last year. I'm sure you've seen us write about this a lot, but we thought there would be a few hundred people who would go through it, and we had 1,085 people go through phase 1 last year. We've got about 745 people this year. And once again, we're pretty surprised by the quality of people in the cohort this year. Obviously, it's changed a little bit in terms of the criteria. Now there are more experienced people than last year. We have switched into 2 tracks or created 2 tracks thanks to the GFI India team putting a lot of hard work into thinking about this. And it's very heartening to see. I mean, I'm looking at the nearly 50 entries into the solutions wall database right now, which will go up on the solutions wall, and it all looks amazing. I think everyone's doing really fantastic work. We are really looking forward to continued work with you. And as you know, we're here to support you and be partners on your journey. So I'd love to hear any questions that you have or thoughts whenever Shardul throws it open to the Q&A. But for now, I just want to say, I mean, just wow, this is really fantastic. It's at every stage, we're very surprised by the strength of the ecosystem and the growth of this sector. And maybe we should stop being surprised at some point, but you guys are all really fantastic. Thank you so much.
Great. So I think that we can take a few questions right now for Varun before we go into a breakout room session, right, Devika? And meanwhile, you're kind of setting up the breakout room. So any questions for Varun? You can just unmute yourself and, just introduce yourself, what you're working on, and then go on with your question.
Just to throw it open, I'm happy to answer questions about kind of what's happening more broadly in the sector, where the opportunities lie, even outside of the context of the innovation challenge. If you are in India, I think you must have seen that there's a lot now happening in terms of launches and things like that. So happy to answer any kinds of questions on how those things come together, what the momentum is, where we see the future opportunities and all of that.
Yeah, so I have a question. I'm Arman. And firstly, thank you so much for arranging a session, and I'm very glad to be here. So I'm currently working on biomass fermentation, and I hope to be an entrepreneur some years down the line. I just wanted to know your opinion and the current situation of whole cut meat alternatives using biomass fermentation. I have heard of aquacultured foods commercializing their product or planning to commercialize that product, but uh, what will be the consumer acceptance of that in India?
Yeah, I think, look, it's a great question. Generally, whole cut meat alternatives, as you know, is something that, and the whole cohort will know this. Now that's a place where the entire industry's focus has shifted, right? Over the last even 10 plus years, the focus has been on the biggest categories of food, which in the Western world are basically burgers and sausages and nuggets, which don't necessarily have to be whole cut. And that's, it also works best from a technical standpoint because it's not as much of a challenge, right? As you all know, whole cut alternatives are capturing the imagination generally. You may have seen that last year, GFI's global competitive research grant program was only focused on whole cut alternatives. So the entire cohort of people that have been funded in 2021 is only focused on whole cut alternatives. And both generally within the plant-based sphere, companies like Umiyami and a lot of really interesting ones are coming out with newer and newer techniques to improve on extrusion processes or just generally focusing on improving whole cut meats. Within fermentation, we're seeing companies in the mycoprotein or whole biomass fermentation space, like Meaty Foods or even Quorn, which is 40 years old, or Nature's Find. All of them come to market now, which is really exciting. And they do use filamentous fungi and other things that lend themselves better to producing a whole cut meat product. As far as India, and to answer your question more directly on consumer acceptance, what we have seen over and over again is that ultimately the thing that matters, at least at the top end of the market, this even overrides kind of the fear of technology or food neophobia. The thing that overwhelmingly matters is just taste and price. And so, there are other factors that impact this. So obviously, if you're planning to utilize GM, etc., it becomes a very complex path to market. But as long as you are not utilizing gene editing, genetic engineering, modification of any kind, there seems to be a lot of acceptance of products that literally taste the same or better as the meats that people know and love, right? So that kind of has to be the focus first and foremost. But I should repeat that given that the broader context of fermentation is that it is a newer category, there is an opportunity for us all to work together if you're on that side of things to figure out what the best way to describe those products is to the consumer, right? So I think we should all be doing research together, maybe put out joint consumer research, etc., to think through what language to use to best describe those products, right? And that's happening in places like the US. GFI is working with a bunch of companies to think through how to frame, whole biomass fermentation derived meat doesn't really sound fantastic. It's a mouthful, no pun intended, I guess. So if we can work together, I think, to simplify it and make it both accurate as well as create positive perception in the mind of the consumer to create that subcategory, we'd love to work with you on that. So everyone who's working on that side of things, please get in touch on this specific area.
All right. Thank you so much.
Great. Thank you. Thank you, Arman, for that question. Who would like to go next? We can take 2-3 more questions. Yeah.
Hi, Varun. This is Nitin over here. Firstly, I would like to thank you as well as the team for having such an amazing journey for all, creating an amazing journey for all of us in the last 3 to 4 months. Having said this, me along with my colleagues, Dr. Swapnil and Shailendra, we are working currently on preparing scaffolds from cultivated meat and primarily focusing on seafood. So one question that I had primarily with regards to other seminars also, I'd asked this question and would want to reiterate the question. And the question is that considering that even at a global level, the more funded startups that we have in the cultivated meat segment, even they at this stage of time do not have a proper marketable POC at this stage from a cultivated meat standpoint. So from a go-to market perspective in India, how do you envision, like at what point of time in the coming near future will we be able to have a basic POC which can be marketable and say, I'm not like say at a price point which would be feasible for people to buy in. So how far do you think, like, are we going to take to envision that kind of a future for cultivated meat, at least in India?
Yeah, great question, Nitin. And we, as you know, we are looking for more clever people to enter the space of cultivated meat. So we're very glad that Team Clever is in the space. What I will say is that just pure and simple from the perspective of cost competitiveness or just cost parity in the Indian market, cultivated meat is not going to be a mass market product in markets like India, developing world markets like India, until 2035. It just is what it is. So you've obviously already read and everyone's seen the techno-economic analysis that we put out. It estimates that in a very favorable high growth scenario where governments and multilateral agencies are offering very favorable financing, right? So hundreds of millions of dollars worth of loans with 20-year payback periods, that just doesn't happen in the normal business world. You would need those agencies to take this as a mission in order to even get to that point, right? And in those scenarios, we get to about $6 and let's say about $6.50, right? By 2030 per pound of meat, which is vastly removed from what the vast majority of India eats in terms of chicken, right? And that's the meat that we're talking about getting cost competitive with. Mutton, etc. Of course, that matters as well. So initially, your question was about a POC stage. I mean, I think you could put that out tomorrow, right? Like we just have to figure out the regulation. A lot of the companies have done POCs in places like Singapore and places like Israel. As you know, Singapore has already enabled the sale. The regulatory approval is in place. But even in Israel, you can go to the restaurant by the chicken restaurant by Super Meat, and you can sign a waiver and try cultivated meat from Super Meat. And there was a great piece in Time magazine, which is being very widely shared. You can just look it up. Super Meat Time magazine. If you just look that up, you'll see there was a fantastic piece just yesterday talking about exactly that. The journalist tried the cultivated chicken from Super Meat in Israel. So you could put out a POC, right? We could help you get it in like the best restaurants at the most upscale venues in India. But then maybe like a small fraction of a percent of the population is going to try that. It's going to be just because it's sexy or to drive attention to the topic. It won't be because it's a viable business proposition, right? I think initially your market is not India. It is, and that's why it makes sense and it's clever for you to get involved on the component side, because your initial market is the international market and being an integral part of the supply chain, which is all good. I think all of this works in tandem because more people in places like India enter the space. That's what gets us to those cost projections by 2030 and gets us beyond that even cheaper and cheaper, which is where we get to the true mass market in a place like India.
Well, thanks a lot, Varun. It answers our question and helps us possibly curate our plans for the near future, considering the cost problem that we are going to face in terms of bringing it out into the market. So thanks a lot for your answer, Varun.
Of course, Nitin. And look, as you know, the distance between a $330,000 research project in the Netherlands and a $20 chicken breast in Singapore, the distance between that in terms of technical progress is maybe even less than the difference between $20 chicken breast and $2 chicken breast, right? Like there's a vast difference in terms of scaling up the bioprocess and the technical hurdles that exist to get there, which is why it's going to take us a long time and a lot of funding, a lot of research, a lot of ingenuity like the people on this call to get there.
Thanks a lot, Varun.
Can I go next? So hi, I had a similar question, I think, to what Arman has put in the chat box. So I'm a third-year engineering student, and before joining this challenge, I knew the term plant-based meats, but only after reading the resources we got over the past few months, I've understood the scope of this field. So how do we increase awareness and more research at the university level and the student community so that we can make it a more attractive opportunity, especially in India?
Great. Yeah, great questions. I mean, the first thing is just kind of what's already been put in the chat by Shardul, which is, and what you are all already doing, which is being great advocates for the space through your work as well as through your dialogues with your colleagues and your peers. I think it makes a lot of sense to get them excited about the space and to talk a little bit more about it. And I should say, look, we started GFI India on December 1st, 2017. And it took a full 4 years, right, to get to plant-based meats actually being a thing, right? So ITC launching plant-based meats in the market, that was like a, an 8-month project that we did with them, but I would argue it was like a 4-year project, right? Because we needed to build a bunch of momentum before that point. So from this point forward, I think the momentum snowballs and it builds on itself and it compounds, etc. But there's a lot of work that we still need to do to get many, many more people involved. So we have this economic analysis that's coming out with Deloitte soon, whenever I can finish editing it. So hopefully soon. But it actually sizes that we need, hundreds of thousands of people entering this space. I mean, what it says is this space will create hundreds of thousands of jobs, but that also means that we need the hundreds of thousands of people to staff those jobs, right? And they need to be trained. They need to be, there'll be different disciplines: chemical engineering, biomedical engineering, industrial engineering, like bench scale biochemistry, marketing, etc. There's so much that needs to enter the space. And I think we all need to, be great advocates of what is going on here. So we're relying on you all to be amplifiers of what's happening in the space. Some of you will start companies or scale your companies and hire hundreds, if not thousands of people, if not lakhs of people. We'll see, hopefully. And then at the other end of this, kind of from a top-down level, we do need vastly more funding in the space. So like for someone who's in an academic position in a lab, obviously their career matters, right? And they are able to work on certain things dictated by funding. You know this better than me if you're in the academic environment. I'm a college dropout, so obviously I couldn't stick it out there. But overall, I think we need to do a lot more work to get government and industry to fund research in the academic environment so that it becomes easy to enter the space, right? Like no matter how much you care about these problems, and there are people on this call who've been talking to us. I see, for instance, Yadidya on this call, people who've been talking to us for years about, hey, where are the opportunities? Where's the funding? Can I do a project here? What's going on? We need to get a lot more of that funding. So hopefully we'll be able to unlock more of it this year. Initially, it'll start off slow as always, and then it'll move faster.
Hi, Varun. It is fantastic to see you and talking to you. I have one question is that what is the scope of cell culture media formulation in India currently?
Yeah, so as you know very well, all of the, this is your project, right? All of the upside, or a significant portion of the upside in cultivated meat, is in driving down the cost of cell culture media, growth factors, some particular growth factors like albumin, figuring out bioprocess, or like recycling those growth factors. There's a lot that needs to be done, right? In terms of the scope of what's possible, and you've heard this language 100 times before because I've written the foundational language that you're seeing in all of these documents, but we have this thriving and growing biopharmaceutical sector. The government is trying to make that biopharmaceutical sector even more robust and higher value, right? So I think that is a parallel movement or a backdrop against which we are growing this industry. So you will see a lot of the larger companies that are in growth factor, media manufacturing or growth factor manufacturing in places like India, get involved in our space or become viable opportunities to accept strategic funding or even exit to those companies. So I think there is a huge opportunity within media formulation and manufacturing globally. This is, just because many people are working on it doesn't mean it's a solved problem. And just because many people may solve it, that doesn't mean that's the end of the industry. In fact, that's the beginning of it, right? Like we need to manufacture millions upon millions, if not billions of liters of this stuff over the next decades. And then we need that wheel to keep moving. So we think it's going to become a very high value industry. I think everyone agrees on that over the next decades. So yeah, look, if you end up spinning out smart media into its own company, I think you should go talk to like Serum Institute of India or Biocon and companies like that, and see if they'll partner with you on strategic scale up investment, etc. So the scope is quite big. If you wanted a market size, unfortunately, I don't have that off the top of my head.
No issues. I got it.
Next question is from Dr.
Sir,
Bhavesh.
can I ask?
Yeah, sure. After Dr. Bhavesh, and we'll take your questions as the last question, Bonnie, and then perhaps Varun can join some of the breakout rooms as well, so that he can take more questions in the networking session.
Okay.
Dr. Bhavesh, do you want to go next? Yeah, I'm asking you to unmute. You can unmute yourself, Dr. Bhavesh, I think. Okay, till then, Bonnie, please go ahead and ask your question.
Yes. Hello, everyone. My name is Boni. I'm currently working on a startup, which is we are cultivating algae spirulina in the form of this powdered form. So what I like to ask is that what is the scope of this Brogan algae factory in India, and how can we scale up, especially focusing on the smart protein sector by producing algae? That's the question.
Yeah, I mean, huge. I think very, very promising area. Bonnie, can I just clarify which strain did you say? Is it a microalgal species or is it a seaweed species? I didn't catch that.
Yeah, microalgae
Okay.
species, spirulina.
Oh, got it. Okay. Yeah, I mean, huge. And you know that it already has applications within other food and nutraceutical, cosmeceutical, etc. sectors, right? I think within our space, which has the potential to be a particularly high value stream of offtake for your algal ingredients, there is very quickly growing momentum for those algal ingredients, because everyone recognizes that the nutritional flavor, even mouthfeel, and all kinds of different parameters that they add to an end product are quite unique, right? You don't find those, especially I think nutritional components, which also dictate how it tastes, etc. in other ingredients. You just don't get those things in other ingredients. You only get them in aquatic species, and of course, microalgae being some of those. So given that seafood in particular is so neglected, such a fast growing area over the next few years, that is plant-based seafood, there is an opportunity to have, a large, to grow into a very large market, both in India and overseas. I just want to add a couple of points here though, especially if you're on the ingredient side, right? So whether it's in plant-based, fermentation derived, or cultivated, you do have a challenge, or we all have a challenge when we're talking about building ingredients organizations. We also need to build out the business development side and compete with existing very, very large players. So your competition is the likes of Rocket and Ingredion and those kinds of companies, right? So they have very large sales organizations. They have a ground game. They know they have a stall at every trade fair, and they have huge brand recall. So I think as an ingredient player, you have to, I think through how you're going to build out your sales organization, how you're going to do all the boring, unsexy stuff that's not just making a cool technology or a cool product. And if you want to make it a viable business, that would make sense, right? To think through those things. So I think there's huge scope. The government is also looking to promote, at least on the seaweed side, but soon I'm sure they'll do it on the microalgae side also. They're looking to promote a lot of aquaculture in these aquatic plants. So yep, there's a huge opportunity here. I think it's a good space to be in.
Oh, thank you, sir.
Yeah, hello, Varun.
Hi, Bhavesh.
How are you? And since long we couldn't hear you on GFI platform, so it's a nice opportunity again to meet one-to-one. Yeah, my question is whether there, as you are handling GFI at now India and Asia level, is there any industry or any academic collaboration who can collaborate with our university or our department for the development of meat analogs and other dairy alternates from indigenous crops that we are dealing now, like pulses and legumes, as well as other indigenous crops?
Yeah, definite yes. I mean, I'm sorry that I can't give you a specific answer right now, but I mean, right off the top of my head, I would say universities like NIFTIM, IIFPT, etc., which have significant food science expertise and talent, I think would be, but they don't have any specialization in indigenous crops, right? So you might have some specialized knowledge or staff or faculty, etc., that are working within indigenous crops. I think those universities might be good to collaborate with in India. And then internationally, I mean, and by the way, IITs, etc., would also be interesting, I'm sure. Internationally, there's definite interest. So yeah, I think we should talk offline. We are currently looking to kind of double our entire team size and triple the size of our scientific department with one person only focused on building out programs for indigenous crops on the scientific side. So I think there'll be an opportunity for us to work together on this. There'll be a bunch of universities that will emerge. But Akshay, do you want to add some stuff here, or Shardul, do you want to add some stuff here on this? Akshay works on the cultivated and fermentation side, of course, but he's been in a lot of those meetings with universities. And then Shardul is, of course, a qualified food scientist who's built a lot of our relationships with the plant-based side of things. So Shardul, if you want to add any names, happy to defer to you here.
Sure. So, Dr. Bhavesh, my response to this would be we are definitely looking at getting more universities at every level of education, masters, bachelors, and specific universities who have expertise in, say, dairy. Can you please mute so that background noise doesn't come in? But you can unmute yourself when you respond. Basically,
Okay.
Yeah, so universities which are having specific expertise will be getting in touch with you over the coming, say, 2022, 2023. We have a schedule where we are installing coursework with some high priority universities and trying to think of ways where, so the Smart Protein Challenge is a great example, right? Within your university, if you recommend 20 more people, 30 more people to sign up for some of these initiatives, I think even your colleagues and perhaps students at bachelor's, master's, PhD student level can join in, can form their ventures, think about solving solutions. In the meanwhile, while more formal research and perhaps academic research or fundamental research kind of opportunities come your way. Outside of this, Akshay, you can talk about the research program and how perhaps any interesting faculty from Dr. Bhavesh's college can apply for that.
Yeah, I mean, currently we are actually building this sector ground up, right? So I think there are a few opportunities for students who would like to explore, let's say, wet lab work. We have a few grantees who are working in this space. They're looking for manpower as well, or in terms of, let's say, students doing internships at the same time. They get their work done and the students gain, hands-on experience, for example, in wet lab. Obviously, Shardul spoke towards coursework. We are in the process of launching coursework at multiple universities in India. And we also have our own massive online course as well, right? So the MOOC course, massive open online courses, which is offered through GFI itself. So any student who is interested to know more about this space can directly, get onto this MOOC course and get to know more. And probably I can share more details with you about this as well. Yeah, I mean, this is what I had to add here, but probably Dr. Bhavesh, we can, if you'd like to, we can have a one-on-one conversation and discuss more about how we can actually collaborate moving forward.
For sure, I'm not taking much time today, but the thing is, like you provide B2B solutions or B2B connections on this platform, like companies and other researchers. Can we have something like college to college or university to university collaboration within India, out of India, and kind of platform separately? The seminars you can arrange where we university people can be, discuss with each other and further collaborate, keeping GFI in between to us.
Yeah, great thoughts. I think it makes a lot of sense. Shardul, how much time do we have?
Yeah, so I think we are running a little late. So what we should do, Devika, now is switch to our networking session for breakout rooms, and I'll pause the recording. Okay, so thank you for joining back again from our networking session. I hope that just talking with each other, there's just so much diversity, right? Like I was hopping through all the rooms and I could see people asking each other questions which they know little about, at the same time people sharing knowledge openly. So somebody was asking me, where can I perhaps connect with more plant-based egg people, like-minded people in the plant-based egg category, or perhaps just people working on alternative eggs. So obviously go through the data that is already with you on the final list of participants, go through, for example, the Smart Protein Solution wall, figure out people working in your technology area. And I'm guaranteeing it, if you, even as competitors in a challenge, connect with each other, working on same problem statements, there's so much to learn from each other perhaps and incorporate in your final phase 3 proposal submissions. You can help each other, definitely improve each other's work, ideas, and perhaps somebody's lacking in a specific aspect, like maybe food safety aspect, right? And one of you or few of you might be experts in food safety. So, share your knowledge about it. This is just one example, but I'm sure, many more of you would find value. Vasan from Probus Natural was just telling me that their facility to co-manufacture will start soon. And, it's so interesting. They are one of our challenge participants, and now many more entrepreneurs would perhaps work with them on co-manufacturing projects. So things like that. If you don't know where that infrastructure exists, connect with the right people within our community, within our challenge cohort. And I guess, this is the future, right? Essentially, not all of you are going to continue working in this sector, probably in 3 years' time. But I think majority of you have an interest, and somewhere it will reflect in your career, whether the higher education programs you choose, whether the jobs that you choose, the entrepreneurship ideas you kind of pursue in the next few years, or the research you undertake. I think it'll all kind of be influenced by your experience in the past 3-4 years. And ultimately, these are the kind of cohort professionals that you'll end up working with, right? Perhaps they're your consumers, perhaps they're your partners, perhaps they're your customers. You never know. Maybe they're your research consultants in a couple of years down the line. So it's always a great idea to be in touch with each other, connect with each other on LinkedIn, join our communities, and then be part of this active community as we all together grow. So that was the point of the session. That was my observation from today. Who would like to go next?
Well, one thought I had, Shardul, for sure, is that something that is clear here is that this network is worth like being mapped in some way, that we can utilize the contacts of each one of us in the coming months, even after the challenge. Like me as a supplier, somebody else as a manufacturer, or an R&D process. I hope there was a way we could mainstream and make it easier for us to plug and play our solutions and cooperate.
Absolutely. And I mean, honestly, I've been saying this from day one. Yes, we have a lot of prize pool in terms of 20 lakhs to offer for phase 4. That's nothing really compared to the kind of network and the experience you're getting. And I see, Rami, you participating in almost all sessions very actively. So I'm thankful for everybody who turns up in most sessions and, discusses their ideas, offers their knowledge and feedback to each other. That really, really helps build the quality of this program. So I'm really hoping that, many of you, and it's an extended network thing as well, right? Like, my apologies, so for example, if you're in a specific university and your university departments don't have the necessary knowledge or infrastructure, then there are so many other people from different parts of India where those things might be available. Maybe you decide to work with their professors. Maybe you decide to, tap into their extended networks at every level. We have students, we have researchers, we have masters, PhD students, we have corporate professionals. We have, professionals who are entrepreneurs, serial entrepreneurs from the past few years entering into this sector as part of our cohort and our larger GF Ideas India community. So I really, really hope that more people connect with each other and kind of tap into these resources. So very rightly said, Rami. Thank you for bringing that up. Anybody else would like to go?
Hi, Shardul. Hi, everyone. And thanks. Today's session is very informative. From last 4-5 sessions, I really appreciate of this. And today also I find many enthusiastic entrepreneurs as well as a student and researcher who are working on that. And I really love to connect with you, each other. And I think for whatever we have reached, we may be drop down or we may go. We can connect each other and we can support each other. Whether we can support in our research, we can support in our technology and all. And we can make the GFI India the most prouder than this time, and we can make India a better place, and we can contribute because we have from different background. This is what Shardul have already told. This is very benefit. Right now we have 2 sessions. I talk to many as much as possible I can to have a network. Thank you.
Yeah, and I mean, who better than Henry to talk about networking, right? Like he's been turning up at our conferences from 3 years now. He was in our in-person summit in Delhi. He made a point to travel all the way to Delhi, meet all the people. 3 years ago, he's actively participating on all the webinars from the past 2-3 years. He connects with researchers. He connects with other professionals from the community. He makes sure that he's kind of transferring his own expertise and knowledge in, fungi, mushrooms, but at the same time, learning from other people with complementary skill sets. So for sure, I mean, more people should definitely do that. So thank you for sharing your thoughts today, Henry. Okay. Anybody else would like to go next? We'll take one more quick insight and then we'll wrap up the session. Anyone, it could be just a general thought about your experience so far in the past 3-4 months in the challenge. Can I randomly invite someone? Asha, would you like to go? You, Asha Bangar, yeah. You cannot unmute. Yeah.
Hi, I'm kind of sick right now. I just wanted to say hi, everyone. It's been a great experience networking with all of you. And I've learned so much through this challenge already. So I'm looking forward to learning more continuously and interacting with you and growing together. So thank you so much, GFI, for organizing this.
Fantastic. Great. So I think with that, I just wanted to tell you that more for phase 3, this is our last session, right? Now you have 9 days to deeply work on your proposals. And you might remember my first email at the start of this month that I hope before joining these webinar series, you complete your 50% of the draft. I don't know how many of you have done that. Maybe all of you are on that stage. Many of you are on that stage now. But if you really put, I think, a lot of time on this proposal for the next 9 days, we hope to see top 20 teams. So we have 53 teams currently. So 33 of you, if you all submit, won't make it to phase 4, unfortunately. But there are a few exciting sessions coming, more closed door mentoring sessions on team building, on art of pitching, on fundraising, many such exciting sessions. We'll obviously put up the recordings later on, and we'll invite phase 3 participants who do not qualify for phase 4 to participate in our webinars as well. But I'll just request all of you to give it your all in the next 9 days, and then hopefully we'll have a lot of fun reading your proposals in those 7 days. So best of luck, and thank you so much for all the time you spent thinking about the sector and about the challenge. Really appreciate it. All right, bye. Take care, everyone. So sorry, I need to take a photo. So if you all can please switch on your cameras. Okay, let me just take a couple more. Sorry, I'm sniping it, so it's taking a little bit longer, but just give me 1 second. Okay, I'll share it on Slack. Just a second. Perfect. Great. Thank you, everyone, for joining us. Bye. Take care. Have a great weekend. And best of luck for your phase 3 submissions.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you, Devika. Thank you, Akshay. Bye.